Well, that's the next question. Matt.
Yeah, I got 8 syllables and I got something on that. Yeah, it's my class on and then for AP stats, I recommend to do a methodology exam. So today was multiple choice and free response.
Anyway.
There's a whole academic.
No.
They're not too bad individually actually, but like when you do like all of them together, it's kind of spread it out. Yeah, and she's just so talented. She actually wanted her to like get it. It's like I'm doing like 4 this year. I'm sure. I was going to ask here. I just did
Whether it was something about our water.
I don't know.
She also.
I just.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
They're good too.
So the girls. Hey, Mr. Crest, it was grade 1 because 2 of her students are at that level.
I think I'm not worried about that. Sure. How will you know? I saw her. Next year.
No, I mean, I don't want to. We did grab it. I think that's what.
I didn't know something and so I didn't really plan for work today. I don't like that knowing what I'm doing.
Give you a range about 4 grades.
That's what I was happy with.
So I said, I don't know where she's at.
Intervention. So I almost fell over.
Hey Kim, how are you?
Good.
Mrs. gave me a little bug today, so I actually got to prepare some stuff.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to her.
Yeah, we can.
No.
Morning, evening, Kim. Morning, Kim. Yeah.
She doesn't have to have it. Let's get sold up in for 2.
I don't
But I want to.
Okay, so. Let's call the meeting to order. Roll call. Everyone's in attendance except for Mr. Nye. We could all rise for the allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here tonight. The mission statement The Viroqua School District provides a quality education for all students that inspires continuous learning, positive relationships, curiosity, and compassion, and an environment that welcomes diversity while developing respectful and responsible citizens. Real quick, I'd like to introduce Caleb and Tyler. They're reporting this evening. If you would like to just step in front so that the community can see you, I would appreciate it.
Or point your cameras at each other.
That's what we're doing,
There you go,
too.
that works out. Tyler and Caleb, and Caleb is a high school student, and thank you both for your willingness to document this meeting live. We are live, right? Yes. Spotlight on Education, Vernon County Better Futures Charter School. We have Adam here tonight to present information about the Better Futures Charter School.
Yes,
Thank you,
hello.
Adam, for coming. Nice to see you.
Good evening to everybody. My name is Adam Fogelson. I'm the lead teacher at Vernon County Better Futures High School. Frederick Douglass, there's a quote attributed to him, that it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. Like the shy 18-year-old girl who did her entire graduation interview without saying a word, now works with the public making specialty sandwiches. The 17-year-old pregnant teen who's now, or no, I'm sorry, now she's 19, is a CNA. A young lad who is now a $65,000 a year truck driver. And another lad who is working to get his elementary school special education licensure and degree. These are some of the kids that have come out of Better Futures. Better Futures is a public charter school for at-risk kids, people, you know, our neighbors. It is a consortium of Viroqua, for whom I work. I work for my kiddos. Westby, Lafarge, and Kickapoo. It was started in 2000 by Fritz Cushing, who I still keep in contact with when I have questions. And it's a high school that's supposed to provide an alternative for students at risk of failing or dropping out of school because of difficulties integrating into traditional school programs and settings or meeting usual behavior and academic expectations. The students have four main goals: increasing academic achievement, developing abilities to work with others, increasing self-efficacy, you know, standing up for themselves and being able to do it like an adult, and also help them seek out careers, and obviously graduating from high school. All right, well, what's an at-risk student? Better Futures works with 9th graders to 12th graders. Wisconsin statutes, I'll go through that so fast. Children at risk means pupils in grades 5 to 12 who are at risk of not graduating from high school because they are dropouts, or two or more of the following: that they're 1 or more years behind their age group in high school credits, 2 or more years behind their age group in basic skill levels, habitual truants, parents, I've had a couple of those, adjudicated delinquents. I shan't go into much more of this. Could also be 8th grade pupils who failed some examination or who have been failed to promote to 9th grade. So how do we do it? We use something called blended learning. And blended learning is basically, well, you know, it combines like classroom learning with online instruction. And students can, in part, control how they do it. So I might have a student that signed up for 3 online classes, but they only want to work on 1 class. These are semester-long classes, and this is pretty common. Well, they'll finish a whole semester class, sometimes in less than a quarter, because they can just focus on the 1 class. And they all have individual learning plans that they help create. You know, they take a test, we sit talk. Like, okay, your math, fractions. What is it about fractions and people? Everyone hates fractions. Students are required to complete a graduation portfolio, which can be a slideshow the student who didn't talk did it as a big flip book, because one of her schools is art. It was very well done. It was one of the better ones I've ever seen, actually. They have to have about 150 community service learning hours per semester. That can be a paid job or volunteer work. They have to adhere to strict attendance rules. I mean, very strict. And participate as a member of our little educational community. Do chores. Vacuum the floor, will you? Sweep. Throw out the garbage. Our attendance is you can't miss more than 14 hours per quarter. If you do, you have to make up time at twice for every hour. I do it for every 15 minutes. Mostly, though, they come in and make up the time on a one-on-one basis. So, Better Futures provides a meaningful and inclusive school environment where core academic areas are blended into a combination of digital content and useful activities in student interest areas. Now, I've only been in the ed biz 5 years, but this is my 4th year at Better Futures. And student population has increased its overall enrollment from a low of 12 students, and sometimes that wasn't even at the same time, like somebody would graduate and another guy would come in, to this year a total, this includes 2 that have graduated and 1 that left the program, of 20 students. So 4 years. In fact, at this last month's consortium meeting, which was last Thursday, a couple of the principals said, can we grow this program some more? Because they have kiddos on a waiting list. Enrollment growth is fast becoming like the new normal, right? So right now there's kind of a waiting list for kids to get in. So to keep the momentum going that Better Futures has had for the last 5 years and keep it growing, you know, growth for future demands future growth for funds, which we'll talk about another day. Because it would be really nice to grow the school, and some of the growth would include increasing the size of the physical space. We're over there on the south end of campus in our little woods. It's very nice. You should come by sometime. Maybe we'll make you some brownies. Also to get some more technology. Everyone has a computer, as they have Chrome bases, but we would need more. And it might be nice to have some, I don't know, things like that, where one can display stuff. And probably, at a certain point, a second teacher. I mean, I believe like a maximum of 24 to 28 students would be possible with those investments in mind. Because this is a growing population. You know, part of the reason a lot of students can't hack it in the main building, frankly, is they get overwhelmed. You know, some people call it anxiety, sure. But that's not a fad. I mean, that's a trend. It's more and more. So through a combination of hands-on learning, online learning, community involvement, and the support and care of our friends, of their fellow friends at school, Better Futures has become and will continue to be a successful program for those kids we call at risk. All right, so if it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, Vernon County Better Futures has filled the needs for those students who've turned out to offer our community much more than people have realized, especially themselves. So then and today and hopefully tomorrow. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask.
Does anyone have any questions about him? So I do.
Okay. I was told that would happen.
I know. I don't want to disappoint.
Yeah.
That would be tragic. How many? You said there's several schools. How many? The names of the schools that are part of the consortium?
So Viroqua, Westby, Kickapoo, Lafarge.
Right now.
Right now.
Okay, and that can change a little bit, correct?
I'd have to really look at the details in the charter itself,
Okay.
because it is Vernon County Better Futures. At one time it was 5 schools. DeSoto
Okay.
was part of it when it first started, but I
That's
think it
what
was
I
only
thought.
part of it for a year, is what I was told.
Okay. Okay, I was curious about that.
And right now we have 9 Viroqua, 8
Oh, you don't have to break it down.
Westby,
You
and
don't have to
a
break it down.
couple Lafarge so far.
Okay. I, number one, I've attended Better Futures. I've attended a commencement ceremony at Better Futures. And if anyone ever wants to have an experience that is off the charts, positive, happy, and exciting, you should attend a graduation commencement at Better Futures. It is filled with tears and joy, and I went a couple of times when Kathy Close was the high school principal, and it was really a pleasure. So it's a wonderful group of students, and the success that they achieve and some of the adversity that they overcome many times is pretty tremendous. So thank you for your work with those students and assisting them to graduate. Do you have any difficulty finding the 150 hours available for community service?
Many get jobs in the community, but yeah, there are some of those kids that are really shy at first. So to encourage them to be a squeaky wheel when they apply for a job is something I do.
So 150 hours, it isn't volunteer hours?
It can be if they want to be like a Humane Society, or I have one student for a while who was, hanging out with people at Bethel Home, and that was all volunteer, and that was really, sometimes that gets their brains going like, wow, I could do this for a career, or I don't want to do this for a career,
Sure.
But so it helps them that way a lot.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? So I assume you're going to be presenting Mike with a little additional information of your financial requests at some point.
Oh my, yes.
Okay.
We've had conversations.
We have had conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing more about that. So thank you for your time tonight and all the great work that you do with our students.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next topic is the audit report, and we have Kim and Melanie tonight, or just Kim is speaking. I saw a sidekick there, so I'm not sure. Before you begin, so we don't have any microphones. Can everyone hear me? It's okay?
I can.
Yep.
Okay.
Just I
All
can't
right.
usually hear one thing.
Thank you. Sorry.
So I'm Kim Hollerman. I'm from the lacrosse office of Johnson Block. I used to work in the Viroqua office. So I'll just get started. You guys all have a copy of the presentation, and then there's also a copy up on the screen. So we've completed our audit for the year ended June 30th, 2019. We've issued an unmodified opinion, which is just your normal clean opinion. Included in the bound document, did they get the document?
Yes.
Yes.
They all had them a few weeks now.
Yes.
So within there are schedules of federal and state awards and the reports related to the district's compliance with regulatory requirements. For the year ended June 30th, 2018, the district expended about $1.4 million in federal funds, so you're well above the single audit threshold. During our single audit, we tested Medicaid and food service. There was one finding related to Medicaid. There was one missing consent to bill form. We chose another sample and there were no other findings for that, but we were required to report that. There was one finding related to the state programs, and that was people transportation. This resulted in high student counts in multiple categories. There's some problems with the spreadsheets and some of the procedures, but those have since been, the procedures have been amended and the report was amended. Scope of our audit included all funds and activities of the district. Management has reviewed and accepted the journal entries and the financial statements. Most of the entries were prepared by Mike before or during the audit. Along with the bound document, there was a separate audit communication document for the board and key management. We did have one finding related to segregation of duties, which is very normal for a school of your size. There was also 2 management letter comments, one for some old outstanding checks that I think are being worked on. And then GASB 84, which is related to your fiduciary activities, your scholarship funds and your student activity funds, and that's in effect for 1920. All your year-end audit reports were electronically submitted to DPI. And then just a note that the 2015 through 2017 numbers that are in the report were from a prior auditor. On page 4 is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, which is essentially your income statement. You can see general fund had revenues of about $15.1 million, instruction expenditures of $8.5 million, support services of $4.7 million, debt service of $63,000, non-program of $867,000, capital outlay of $548,000, and then total expenditures of about $14.7 million. There was also other financing sources of about $172,000. So you had an increase to fund balance of $217,000, leaving an ending fund balance of about $5 million. Debt service had total revenues of $1.2 million, expenditures of $925,000, so an increase there of $251,000, and ending fund balance of $672,000. And then your non-major funds, which is your special revenue trust, food service, package cooperative fund, capital projects fund, long-term capital improvement trust, and your community service fund. There were total revenues of $797,000, instructional expenditures of $193,000, support services of $716,000, capital outlay of $33,000, and total expenditures of $942,000. Other financing sources of $267,000, so an increase there of $122,000. So an overall fund balance there of $339,000, and your total fund balance was about $6 million. On page 4, we can see your budget to actual for the general fund. If you compare this to the general fund on the previous page, it's not going to quite match because your special education fund was included in there. So we'll just compare the final to actual. So you budgeted $13.7 million in revenue, and you actually had $14.1. So a positive variance there of $376,000. Instructional expenditures, you just had a $62,000 unfavorable variance there. You budgeted $4.1 million in support services, and you had $4.3 million, so $141,000 unfavorable variance there. There was $63,000 for principal that wasn't budgeted. That was for that capital lease for the phone system. That is probably budgeted somewhere else in there. Non-program, you just had a small positive variance there. Capital outlay, $31,000 positive variance. Your other financing uses, you budgeted 1.7, you had 1.6. So overall, a positive variance of $292,000. And page 5 is your special education fund. So you budgeted $1.1 million in revenue, and you had about $1 million, so $29,000 unfavorable variance. Extraction expenditures, you budgeted 1.8 and you had 1.7, so $51,000 positive variance. Support services, $490,000 was budgeted. You had about $451,000, so $39,000 favorable variance. Non-program, $187,000 budgeted, $178,000 spent, and a $9,000 positive variance. And then there was $55,000 that was not budgeted for capital outlay. So in the end, overall, you needed about $16,000 less of a transfer in from the general fund for your special education fund. Following page is a breakdown of your fund balances. There was a small non-spendable fund balance in your package cooperative, which was just a prepaid expenditure. Restricted fund balance, in the major funds, you had about 1.9 million, which is for your self-insured health insurance and your debt service fund. Your non-major funds, you had restricted fund balance of 339,000. Leave a total restricted fund balance of 2.3 million, which is about 38% of your total fund balance. Unassigned, you had unassigned fund balance in the general fund of 3.8. And then just that small deficit in the package cooperative to offset that prepaid expense. Overall, there was a zero balance in that fund. And then your unassigned fund balance was about 3.8 million, which was 62% of the total. So there shows your total $6 million fund balance. Page 7 just is the trend in your general fund balance. So as you can see, over the last 6 years, there was a steady increase since 2015-16, increased about 23%. On page 8 is a breakdown of your revenues. About 51% of your revenue went to state sources, 31% of property taxes, or came from, I should say, 8% from federal sources, 6% from interdistrict and intermediate sources, 3% from other local sources, and 1% from just other sources. Your most significant revenue is from your equalization aid, which is about 7.1 million. Page 9 is your property tax levy analysis. It just shows your levy by fund over the last 6 years. For the most part, it's remained pretty constant there. Page 10 is the trend of your equalization aid over the last 6 years. It's increased from about 6.2 million in 13-14 to 7.1 in 18-19. Equalization aid is just based on your enrollment for the last 3 years. And then touching on enrollment there, on page 11 just shows your trend in your enrollment. So there was a decrease for 18-19 of 48, which is like a 4% decrease. Overall, over the last 6 years, it was a decrease of about 1%. Page 12 is a breakdown of your expenditures. So 53% went to instruction, 33% to support services, 5% to non-program expenditures, 6% to debt service, and 3% to capital outlay. And then on the last page, just shows your long-term obligations. So you had general obligation debt of about 4.5 million at the beginning of the year, payments of 825,000, and ending amounts of 3.7 million, of which 840,000 was due in 1920. There's a bond premium that's being amortized, and there's 142,000 left on that. And then the capital lease, which I mentioned before, so that was 95,000. Payments of 63,000 with a balance of 32,000, and 14,000 of that was due in 1920. So overall, you have 3.9 million that was due at the end of 18-19. And then just at the bottom shows your debt capacity. So your debt limit is 61.5 million, and you had the 3.7 outstanding. So you had approximately 57.8 million left to borrow, so 94%. That's it. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? I went in and spoke with Mike about a couple of the items that you found in the audit report, and I'm wondering, Mike, if you could explain it during this meeting, what some of those findings were and what the district is doing with those findings.
Yep. The first one Kim mentioned was the finding of the lack of parental support signature in the file that was selected, and that was truly an isolated incident of happenstance, if you want to say, with the nature of how that child came to us and how the file came and where we ended up, and we course, remedied that, and they didn't find any others, nor did we find any others when we went through on that. So that's always the luck of an audit is, you know, you pick one out of 200, and that's the one that's what we always say, that's the one they're gonna pick, so.
Thank goodness they found it.
Yep,
That's their
exactly.
job, so they're doing their job well.
Yep. The transportation report finding, as you remember from last year, we had a similar, not exactly the same finding, but a similar finding. And we did improve our procedures last year, but there was a major component that we didn't have identified until the audit, and it became pretty clear early in their testing as to that was a systemic problem in our design. We've implemented what we'll call internal controls. They're very manual internal controls, but they're probably the most effective that we can, involving the individual bus drivers to help us identify some things. And we utilize them back on their first day back to school to help us correct last year's, and then the plan going forward would be to have them review it before we file. And we really feel that that's probably our best internal control that we can have in order to get that as complete and accurate as possible. Beth and I both kind of had the fun of working with that one on that. Segregation of duties, like you said, that's always been there. The old outstanding checks. And this predates me, that's how old they are, but yet some of them are mine too. So for instance, we write a check to an official and they lose it. Maybe an expense reimbursement for $8.19 to an employee. They decide not going to cash it, they lose it. Those stay on our check reconciliation, and the proper thing for us to do is one of two things: find the person and reissue, or in reality, the proper thing is to turn it over to the state of Wisconsin as unclaimed funds. There is a process that does involve, and you of course want to make sure that that check truly is outstanding and that it's not just something that your system didn't catch. I think we're beyond that. I mean, I think we would have caught those and you know, I mean, is there a chance that a check was written and then we didn't end up going to the conference and we ripped up the check and we didn't? Well, that should have been caught through the accounting system. But there may have over the time been one or two of those. So she's right. We are in the process. Like I say, it is an involved process. We want to do it right. Do you guys remember the value of the?
It's small.
It's small.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
why it's only a management letter comment and not a deficiency.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're talking, what, a couple thousand maybe? Not even that.
But it's probably 50 to 75 checks. I mean, it's a lot of small checks. It's just a lot. I mean, but anyways, that it can be fixed and it will be.
And it went back to 2002, I think, so that's that amount of dollars spread over
So
17, 18 years. Yes.
2002 is when we converted to
I
Skyward.
just know it wasn't a very big dollar
Right,
amount,
right. I
but-
remember seeing it too, and
But it
yeah,
is a
I
lot of checks.
remember the exact amount.
2002 is when we transferred to Skyward, so some of them actually might have been before that.
And just so the board's aware too, with the transportation finding, even though it's a finding, that report had to be, it was completely redone and resubmitted, so what is with DPI now is right. So I mean, just be aware that at least your reporting is correct.
And I also understand that transportation is very difficult because we think a student is going to be on the bus, then that student isn't on the bus, that student might be on a different bus, might be a student that never takes the bus, and so it is a complicated process to track and follow, from my understanding.
The level of investment that some schools have to based on their sheer size, we're on that bubble of it doesn't make sense for us to do that type of a transportation software. We've come a long ways with Randy and the drivers in automating some of that, I guess you could say. but it's still, I mean, we've tried different things through Skyward and everything, but you're right, Angie. One student might be on 4 bus lists because they go one place in the morning, one place after school, every other weekend. I mean, there's just different things, and so we've gotten pretty good at identifying duplicates. It was those that had never ridden that we didn't have a good way of making sure that we captured, because we want them on the list because they might ride. I mean, we pull them off, and now a driver's doesn't have a kid on a roster. So.
Well, then they can't stop.
Well, they might not stop. You know, I mean, hopefully our drivers all would stop if they saw a kid out, waiting for the bus. But I mean,
You might not see
might
the
not.
child.
Yep, might not be seen. So.
Any other questions? No? Well,
But
thank you. Go ahead.
Angie, I think the comment you made was very accurate. With all of the activities that we have going on every year, and you hear some of these things go back for decades, it's very important for us to have the audit come in and really look through things and give us a different perspective on where we can make improvements. We're very happy that we don't have a lot of things that need correction or that need to be corrected, but we do appreciate finding them, and we do want to know how to make them right. And as Mike said, he's very diligent about doing that too, and wanting to make sure that we get it right. We appreciate the help.
Thank you for presenting, Kim.
Thank you.
Have a happy New Year. Have a good night. Thank
Have a
you,
safe
Melanie,
trip
for
home.
coming and your information. We appreciate the thoroughness of your work. The next item, public comment. Beth, is there any public comment? I assume. No, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, proof of public notice, approval of agenda for December minutes and voucher summary? Is there a motion to approve? And that would be in the amount of $209,489.18. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Voucher summary 2, a motion to approve voucher summary 2 in the amount of $24,512.37 as presented. Is there a motion?
So move.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain. I guess, were there any questions about that I should have asked? Yes.
The decrease in the health insurance was reflective of the health insurance premium holiday for
Okay.
collection for the employees didn't pay in and the school district didn't pay in for the December
December.
premiums. That's why it's so much less.
Less. You had shared that with me when I met with you, so it's wonderful that we have been able to do that where our staff does not have to pay for insurance in December because of the funds that we have available. Next item is donations over $250. Is there a motion to accept donations in the amount of $5,373.25? Compere Financial donated $250 for lunch funds for kids. Viroqua Community donated $4,623.25 for the Solstice Community Dinner for Families in Need Student Pantry. Condon Oil Mobile donated $500 for kindergarten science. And we'd like to thank them all for their generosity. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mike, do you have anything to add to those?
The Viroqua community, through the solstice, and Dr. Aronson, if you want to talk about it, because you were more involved in the fun part of that, and all I had to do was count money, so.
You had fun doing that too.
Yeah.
But that's an annual event at the Driftwoods Cafe. It's just the community can come together and contribute. The purpose of the funds at that time of year is right before the holiday break. So we have a great process in place with the gifts coming in from the community.
that evening at the Driftless Cafe, but then those funds coming out of the district office, as Mike said, goes through, counts them, verifies and accepts them, but then we also work with the Main Street Chamber, and we purchase Viroqua bucks with those funds. So we purchased 4,300 was dollars in Viroqua bucks, and then the student services staff is together, and we've been working through for several weeks on just working with identifying families that probably experiencing need at that time, and we're able to then go through and identify the families that would receive the gifts, and they would each get a certain amount depending on, but the average gift would be about $150, $250 per family. So be able to then award those. And one of the most enjoyable parts of that is we always have our school secretaries that get to call the families and have them come in, and they just love being able to see the families and let them know that they were awarded a gift from the community. So it's a wonderful event, and that we hope continues to grow each year, and we hope that the community continues to support and participate. So it really is great for families in Viroqua.
It's wonderful. In the past, all of the waiters and waitresses donated their time. I don't know if that's still the case, or donated tips as well. So I'm not sure if that's the case, but it's truly supported by the Driftless family and employees. So that's a wonderful thing. So, any other discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you to all of those wonderful organizations for those generous contributions. Retirements, item C. Motion to accept the retirement of Peggy Boucher, custodian, as of February 2nd, 2020, with thanks for her 14 years of service to the district. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
This is a special situation too with Peggy. When she came in, she's been such a wonderful employee. When she came in to talk about it, she couldn't help but tear up a little bit. But she was so proud of the fact that when you know Peggy, and so many people see her and know her, when she started the job, she got some advice about being a greeter for the school, and she always took that to heart and was really embodied that each time groups were coming in and the people needed information, needed help. Her area is right at the front of the school, so she knew everything that was coming and going and was able to help people. And when they didn't know what they needed, she could help them figure it out. So she was a wonderful person who sort of set that tone for the school every night she was here. So we're going to miss her that way and miss her special spirit that way, because she was really wonderful at that aspect of the job. And I told her, I said, you got big shoes to fill. I don't know how we're going to find somebody with personality, to do the work and do the job, but then also be so welcoming to the public. She'll be missed.
She is going to be missed. That will be very difficult. We're very fortunate to have her over the last 14 years. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So thank you, Peggy. Appointments, item D. Motion to accept the appointment of Andrea Meir, limited term special education teacher, and Chris Bain, middle school girls basketball coach. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Is there anything, John, that you would like to share with the hiring of the basketball coach?
Jason or Tom?
It's a middle school coach, no?
He's a high school teacher.
He's high school.
High school teacher, middle school. Oh, okay.
Middle school basketball.
Okay, middle school basketball. No? Okay.
Last name is Biney.
I was wondering.
It
Biney.
isn't spelled that way.
It looks like Biney. I
The
apologize
special
to
education
Chris.
teachers at the elementary?
At the elementary, and we had essentially a long-term position to fill, and Karen Lobbs has been doing a wonderful job of filling in for us for the most of the year. And so it became clear that we would probably have to continue for perhaps the rest of the year, but at least for a good portion of the rest of the year. And Karen had reached, she did wonderfully for us, and she was willing to keep going, but we also recognized that she needed a break too, and deserved to have her time back to her to be able to control. So we advertised for essentially a second semester special education teacher, and as you could imagine, might be a difficult thing to find, but we have 4 qualified, certified applicants that came in, and I think one didn't interview.
One accepted the night before interviews, so we only were down to 3, but all 3 were very good. Yeah, and Andrea just seemed like she'd be a really good fit. She had the early elementary, the early childhood piece as well that we also thought would be helpful in this position. And Karen's willing to stick around another week and kind of help transition her through. So we think it's going to be a really good fit.
Any more discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item E, establish open enrollment spaces for 2020, 2021, or 2021, wow, already. Motion to establish the 2021 open enrollment spaces as follows. Unlimited availability for Viroqua area elementary school, Viroqua middle school, or Viroqua high school in grades 4K through 12, regular education, special education, early education, 0 spaces, Viroqua elementary school, 0 spaces, Viroqua middle school, 0 spaces, Viroqua high school, 4 spaces, adapted PE, district-wide 3 spaces. The charter school enrollment availability is designated by each school. Is there a motion? Second. Any discussion? Would you like to share any information about that?
Yeah, I think, and Jen and I will, because this is a process that the state encourages evaluating your educational program and determining if you're going to limit any open enrollments in certain areas. And it's particularly impactful in special education, where you might have high-cost individuals be coming to the district from another district and not receiving the adequate funding for them. And so it becomes a question of a challenge to your district budget and your district, the services that you have available to provide. And so in some cases, you're able then to set a limit and say, we're not going to be accepting any open enrollments in a certain area, because to do so would cost us additional burden to try to essentially add an additional program or add additional staff and things like that for persons who are not residents of the district. So Jan has done a good job with this the last 2 years, especially in going through and identifying the needs and the capacity within our programs, and then looking at where we have essentially space that we know we can allow for some students to come in should they need the opportunities.
So around December, early January of each year, I go through and I look at our current enrollments. And in special education, the DPI sets out a guideline of a weighting method. So weighting meaning like WEIGHTING, so it like weights different students who have different needs. And each caseload has, they say about a 26 is like an optimal number. So 10 students, if you think about it, you pretty much always double. So 10 students could essentially is 20. So if a special education teacher has 10 students, they essentially have like a 20 space, or like that equals 20 students.
The weighting is based on the needs of the programming for the students.
I would say it's an average would be a double. So like if it's a student with low needs, it's like a 1.4, but then if a student has a high need, it could be like a 2.4. So like usually like the average would be about 2, like 1.7 to 2. There's starting this year, there's new guidance. Open enrollment can be either the basic aid, which was $12,000, right, Mike? Does that sound right? 12.6, and then, or you can do an actual cost, but you bill to the previous district up to $30,000, but that has to be determined like now.
From the year before.
Yep, and then you have to like let the previous district know that that's the amount. And costs are based on allowing the students FAPE, so free and appropriate public education within the school environment. So that's where the costs are generated from. We have to do kind of a projection of what we're going to have for next year. So the reason why the high school has some space is we recently had a youth group home in Viroqua close. So now there's a little bit more space at the high school, which leads to about a 4-student space, so like an 8-weight space within the high school. But that's the only school that has any open space within our district. Speech and language is closed, and occupational therapy is closed too. And early childhood is another like special program that elementary and early childhood are closed too.
And to be clear, if a student is a resident of the district and enrolls in the district, they'll receive services. It's really a way to say we can't really afford to bring in others from outside the district in those areas.
If a student's already enrolled, you cannot deny or say that we have no space within our district. They're like grandfathered in to our numbers, so they're already counted in our enrollment projections. So they can't be denied open enrollment if they've already been accepted. They've been going here for 5 years, and they'll still be accepted. And there's preference given to siblings as well. So if we have no space in open enrollment, but there's a sibling, even if they're a child with a special need, there's preference given to siblings as well.
And we did make a note about the charter schools because each of the charter schools has their own enrollment process that's identified through their bylaws, and that they can set limits to grade levels and things like that as a part of their process. So they each do that independently and have that process as identified. This is the time of year where we're about to begin the enrollment process for our charter schools, and so they identify how many seats they might have before that process starts too, and begin enrolling for the charter schools too.
This isn't a process that's taken lightly. We spend a lot of time on this and make a thoughtful and careful and considered decision when we're saying that we have open enrollment cap spaces. It's not something that's taken lightly. We put a lot of time and effort into calculating our projections. So.
Thank you. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for your work getting those numbers together for the students that might possibly have interest coming to our district. Item F, 2020 summer school program. Motion to approve the 2020 summer school program to be held June 15th through July 10th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Tom, would you like to report on this, or Keo? Summer school? Just the dates?
Just the dates.
Just the dates.
Yeah, that's all we have so far.
Okay.
And we were worried, just in case we went over in snow days or something like that, we wanted to make sure that we gave some time there for teachers to prepare for the upcoming, rather than start it right up on a Monday.
So Tom heard about that from last year. As we extended the year, we ran into essentially no time to prepare for summer school. So we spoke with Parks and Rec and checked to see that how their summer schedule would align, and everybody was agreeable to waiting that extra week before we started, and we'll run summer school for 20 days again this year. We'd hope to be able to. So as usual, there's a variety of enrichment classes offered in summer school. The swimming schedule will be similar to last year and run independently from summer school, much like Park and Rec does. But we'll be offering both breakfast and lunch during the academic weeks of summer school at no cost for children that are 18 through the summer school program grant that we have. And so as a district, we continue to qualify for that grant. So there's no cost for children to attend the summer school program, with the exception of some material fees for some of the specialized classes. So the teachers begin working on and planning early for the courses that will be offered, and the opportunities that will be available for the students. And then the summer school contracts will be coming out in March, so with registration. Going to families probably at the end of March, so that whole process of enrolling with summer school will be later in March.
I know we've also had students from other areas attend summer school here, which is nice also, and homeschool students that are homeschooled sometimes will attend summer school here, which is nice as well. So, any other discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. WASB resolution, motion to approve the WASB resolutions as recommended to give the board representative direction when voting at the school board convention. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? No. The resolutions all look pretty self-explanatory and very straightforward this year. So, are you going, Vicki? Are you? Marina, that's right, Marina.
I've always been the alternate, but I get to do it this year.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing about it next month.
Sounds great.
All right.
Matt, you're the alternate?
I'm the alternate, yes.
And they will only let one person in the door, unless, do they now allow visitors? They didn't used to allow visitors, no? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think
Besides
you-
the delegates go in.
I
I
think
can't
so.
remember if anyone sits in back, but
Used to be, they wouldn't permit you to go in.
yeah, I mean, you send one person in and then the report staff. I would rather go to the sessions. I mean,
Yes.
if, we send one person there, the rest of us should be going
Yes.
to
Yeah.
sessions
I-
anyway, so.
Right.
I agree. I didn't know if Matt might be interested since he was the alternate and learning about the experience. Anyway.
It's always next year, Matt.
All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Purchase of a table sander. Motion to approve the purchase of a Laguna 37 Pro Wide Belt Table Sander from A-Line Machine Tool Company in the amount of $13,999. Is there a motion?
So move.
A second?
Second.
So at table, there is some information, actually it was also part of the packet from the technology department about the sander.
And this is a sander that students use every day for a great variety of pieces of wood. I see Caleb nodding and saying, I wasn't even looking at Tyler, who I know.
I saw Tyler smiling
I know
over here.
He's gonna be careful he doesn't vote from the sideline. But this also, in talking with Mr. Hardy, was one of the original pieces of equipment to the school. He thinks it's probably from the 70s. And so there's been a lot of work over the years to maintain this particular piece of equipment and to repair it. And it's gotten to the point that we can't do things to fix it anymore. Now the company that services it for us also can't do anything to keep it going anymore. And so it's just reached a point where it's needed to be replaced, and it's needing because soon there'll be something that will be unavailable, and students will be hampered on a daily basis if it's not something that we have in place. So we definitely support this purchase for the kids.
Did you share how old it was?
Well, we think from the 70s. We're not sure what year. Nobody's been around that long.
So it served its time, its purpose. All right. Any other discussion about the purchase of the sander?
What happens to the old one?
So the plan is for the old one is some of the stuff can be, like, some people can retrofit certain things for them. So we plan on doing like the surplus auction when we keep getting more stuff, so there's an online surplus auction. And that's what we plan on sending a lot of our stuff to. Because we have a lot of stuff already kind of getting there. We're trying to get more things to put on there so they can all be sold at one time. So somebody will probably buy it, hopefully. It's just getting to the point where we fix something and 3 days later something else breaks like right away. So ruins the belts that are on there when we're sanding, ruins those. Those are $80, $80 to $100 a piece. So every time it ruins one of those, then you gotta buy more, then he's sitting around waiting for more of them to get here. And it's just consistent. And like I said, it's served its time, served its purpose for the almost 50 years that it's been here.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Enjoy your new sander. Hope it serves you well.
Another 50 years.
There you go.
We're counting on it. The next item is new high school courses, yearbook, home and auto 2. A motion to approve the new high school courses, the yearbook course, and home and auto 2. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jason, would you like to
Yeah,
give us some
we actually
information
have
here?
very limited changes for this year. The yearbook course would actually be taught by one of our camera people tonight. And we would be shifting that into an actual course so that the students could do a lot of the work behind the scenes now. A lot of students do work now, it's just during resource time, whereas this could be done more, I don't say educationally, but in a structured class. And then the reason for the home and auto 2, this would actually somewhat replace electricity and power. Just I think with the specialty within our department, we have the ability with the home and auto 2. We're kind of limited currently with just one home and auto class, whereas it'd be great if we can expand and have a second one that has more advanced topics. So the first one would be open a lot more to the students that are just looking for those basic things to do both at home or with their automobiles, whereas the second one could go more specialized, especially for those that are going more career focused in those sense.
Yeah, I talked with Mr. Zuli the other day, and it's, part of the problem is more sophomores wanting to be able to take a course and not necessarily even being able to drive yet. So having, like Mr. Kress said, some of the more basic skills and learning for students when they're not yet maybe perhaps that point, and then some of the more advanced skills that second year makes sense when he's just trying to get more kids involved in the class early and get them interested. So it sounds like a
And it's great basic skills. I would venture to guess the vast majority of people in their lifetime have a home and auto. So it's just something that it's something that can definitely be a course that could be beneficial for a lot of individuals that go through the school district. So.
Did you take that one?
I didn't take it, but I know people have taken that course. And with yearbook, like I'm in the yearbook committee right now, and so I know it's kind of hard because I only have limited number of like resource days to actually work on homework because to fit that in, and like meeting on weekends and stuff. So that'd be helpful.
Sounds great. I know I have home and auto, and I tried to do some things myself, but I wish I would have had that class in high school so that I didn't break things between when I was trying to teach myself how to do it and actually now knowing how to do some of those things, like changing oil. Any other discussion? No? With that, all in favor vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Information, WASB convention. I'd like to thank Beth for all of her work to organizing us, herding cats, I like to say. She gave us information right here and the checks, and there's also all of our school district information, all of the hotel accommodations for us. Make sure you download your app for the conference beforehand so that keeps your calendar. We thought originally that you could download it one time and then each year it would just change, but no such luck. So you can delete the old one and then you have to download the new one each year. And then Beth has also given us cards, which are very handy at some of the breakout sessions when you're wanting to get some more information about something. They typically now have the information, all the attachments, PDFs, all of their presentations are attached to the class, so or breakout session, so you can bring that back with you too and summarize them if they don't have paperwork there.
Some are out there already, Angie.
I was
like previewing, trying to breakout sessions, so if you guys are bored tonight, go home and check out the sessions. I don't know.
I looked at them ahead. It's really nice if we can all attend different ones. So if there's something that you know you would like to attend, maybe we can do a look. Well, I don't know that we should do a group. We can talk. Well, you guys can talk about it in the car on the way down, and then perhaps you can send me anything that I might need to know, so that we're not communicating in a walking forum. So.
send you code, you know, session 3A1. You go find it.
Thanks, that would be fantastic.
But it's good for the community to know that this particular conference has thousands of representatives, school board members, administrators, business managers throughout the state that come together, and it's just a great opportunity to learn a lot of different things that might be going on successfully in other areas. We presented last year on our self-funded health insurance. We've presented on other opportunities for other districts in the past, and so it's always a great opportunity to learn and get ideas and see, you know, from some of our colleagues how things could be done. And our board takes it very seriously. They attend, as Angie said, a great variety of sessions and bring a lot of good ideas back. So this is it's a great learning opportunity for all of us, and I'm so happy that the board takes it so seriously and participates every year.
The speakers that they have are usually fantastic. Sometimes there's a book that's sold. Many of them have just been wonderful, and we've typically purchased one of those books and brought it back to the school media center for students to see, or teachers to be able to read. But I always look forward to that. It's very informative. So thank you. And Beth is attending this year as well, correct? All right. So we're looking forward to that. Preliminary 2020-2021 budget. Keel or Mike, would you like to present on that?
Yeah. So where I'm at with that is, actually we were scheduled for the model update with their, it was one of the December mini snowstorms that we had. It was supposed to be on a Friday morning, and they actually canceled it the night before. And so just last week they rescheduled and did a webinar with just me one-on-one on it. There's been some updates to the model, which are really good. And our information's all in, and it looks the same as it did last year, but some of the enhancements for presentation in the future will be very good. This year's budget is, you know, probably even more of a challenge in that we do have to have a plan B and a plan A, meaning, you know, the referendum to exceed will be right in the middle of it. And some of the projects that will be covered under that referendum, we will have to, you know, have a timeline and a plan for those also. So, you know, not that I'm doing everything in duplicate, but yet I'm having to kind of, okay, if this happens, this is going to affect this. But otherwise, I mean, I think with our enrollment being where it is, it'll be interesting. Beth and I haven't even talked about Second Friday to see where that ended. You know, that'll be our basis for starting, you know, September projections and everything, and that'll be that. And so in the next couple months, you'll actually see some hard numbers as far as where we're at. Yep.
Bus cameras.
So we've talked about safety and security on buses for some time, and the technology has greatly improved. We were actually quite surprised as we visited it this year and asked Pat Zilke to get some samples of some of the bus video systems for us, some of the companies that have been recommended by other districts. And so we got to investigate and find out a little bit more about them. The main point of these cameras is to provide safety and security on the buses for our students. So they're very clear, they're very easy to monitor, and give us a good idea of what's happening on the buses. And so allow the drivers to pay attention to driving, to pay attention to what they need to do, and know that there's a system that we can go back and check later to see if we have to make some corrective action with students, or if there's something that had happened or occurred. Did we get the video then, Mike?
So, yes. Give me just a second.
So I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
So another thing, but for example,
what ended up in the drive was like a lot of stuff that I had not seen. So
this system, what we're talking about, main cost of the system is actually the server system and the storage system for the data to make it easy to be accessible to administrators. There's a system that the one that we're interested in purchasing, where a bus driver, if they hear a disruption, or they notice something and they think there might be disruption, they hit a button and it starts recording a minute prior to that for another 2 minutes after. But it doesn't just mark it, it actually moves it to a server where the administrators can look at it easily. So they don't have to go search for it or look for it. So they can see what it is that the driver was concerned about and try to help out. So there's a lot of information here that, and you'll see the example, the clarity of the system. We're not doing everything that's available here. Like there's the stop arm cameras that, we had a good talk about that because it seems like a good idea, except in Wisconsin you can't keep them clean. So by the time you're driving snow and salt, and you can't really see what's going on. But we also are looking at a system for our vans to have 3 portable systems that just attach to the windshield when you're driving a van. It's a 360-degree view inside and outside the van. So when we're transporting students in vans, we can also have that system. And they're easy to move from place to place. The system we're talking about for the buses would be installed in the buses, but like Mike said, it's like putting some electrical wiring across your wall. If you want to take that down and move it, you can do that. If you decide to sell buses and it makes the bus valuable enough to sell, that's one thing, but it's easy to take that system back out and put it in the next bus. And more buses are coming. Work with the installers and work with the company and have those installed too. So it's a lot of real positives to the system itself. So we have a video.
The yellow school bus is still the safest way for a student to get to school. But today, the school bus has become the scene of bullying, driver-related incidents, and devastating stop-arm accidents. ProVision wants to help change that with a high-definition camera system designed to provide clear evidence of an incident, ensuring a passenger's safety and well-being throughout their ride. Our solid-state system can be configured to your specific needs, recording up to 16 1080p cameras simultaneously, and using cameras with a 175-degree field of view, every passenger will be covered. ProVision's integrated stop-arm solution will capture a violator's license plate even at top speeds to report to authority. Real-time system status updates and a simple-to-use playback software allow for notification, review, and sharing when an incident occurs. Whether you're a single bus owner or have a large fleet, every system comes with a standard 5-year warranty, and our on-site factory installers can come to you, working around your schedule to install the system quickly and correctly. The school bus high-definition system. Reliable, simple, affordable. By ProVision.
So nobody's going to be watching this unless there's a concern that there was an incident of some sort. Is that correct?
Right. It's just designed to be a way to ensure the drivers that there's some support for them, that if there's a problem, because I think one of the things that's hardest for drivers is they suspect there's a problem on the bus in the back. They can't do anything without stopping the bus and going to check it out, so it becomes even more of a distraction or a disruption for the driver. So to assist the drivers in knowing with some confidence that we'll be able to see on the video what was going on, and that students quickly, I'm sure, will learn that nothing's a secret now. If they're on the bus, they're going to be able to be, we're going to be able to see the video. Should make for a better behaved ride that way too. There's also information that's provided, like GPS information that could help us when it's investigating the timing on a route and things like that. We might be able to check and see if there are problems or lags, by using the GPS system with the buses too. So it's not a tracking system per se, but it does provide data about the bus routes.
I did ask the administration and building administrators to chime in. I think both Jason and Tom, you're very familiar in your other districts they were surprised we didn't have cameras on our buses. In talking to Mid-States, who we buy our buses from, he said we're not the only ones that don't have cameras on our buses, but he said as a school district owning your fleet, you're one of the few that doesn't. I mean, not few, but I mean, he said, definitely the majority now have cameras on their buses.
Do you have a question?
Does it record even if the bus driver isn't pushing something? So like if the bus driver doesn't know there's an incident, but a parent calls that night, is that footage, like how long is it saved, or what's the?
Mr. Zilke can tell us exactly how long that is, because I think there's some decisions we have on formatting, but I think the plan would be, I think when we watched the video and stuff, wasn't it 2 to 3 days?
You know, he talked about 2 weeks at first.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was
He said-
a week or more.
Because I was surprised, because when we said 2 weeks, I thought, oh, that's a lot of data. But but we'll learn more about the specific.
It would just be nice to communicate out to parents so that
Right.
they know that it's on there and to report it
If there is
timely, you know, like if there is something, because if they don't know, or if a child does say something much later, at least they'll know that it's not that we can't find it, it's not there.
From what
You know,
I
it
gathered
would
from
just be-
Pat, it sounds like it's there constantly, but now when the bus driver doesn't mark it, we have to kind of go back and search for it. So it's still there, we just have to do a little hunting to find it. But when the bus driver marks it like that, it sets it up so that you can easily go back and find those clips like that.
Sure.
When are they going to be installed?
Well, when we had the demo, we're like, okay, you know, we want to get moving on this. And they're like, oh yeah. And then basically he made us feel like it was going to be towards the end of the school year before it was done. But I mean, the earlier we get our decision made, and everything, which I feel we're at now, the quicker they will schedule those installers to come. We had talked about, do we do this in phases, 5 buses, wait 5 buses, and it's gonna be on the bus that you don't have it on. You've gotta go all in if you're gonna do this.
And the greater cost is in the software and hardware systems, and with the servers and the data collection, that's what more the cost is. So even if we didn't do it, we only did this portion of the buses, we still have a majority of the cost.
And it would be great if, it'd be great if these were never used, but I mean, we know they're gonna be. I mean, they are.
Do we have an issue with stop arm with cars and violations?
Coincidentally, there was one right then that we would, and that one we actually felt, because of where it views out, we would have probably been able to get that one. I would say in talking to Randy, it's not a huge issue, but I think they call in, because they call them in 6, 7 a year maybe. I mean, it's not a huge issue, but it's enough.
Oh. And it's
Only takes one.
Yeah.
Right. It only takes one, and it's an important issue that they're very diligent about reporting, and the sheriff's department and police department are very responsive to those reports.
So could you move the camera so it's triggered by the stop arm, but it's a front dash cam instead of on the arm?
There is going to be one out the front regardless. The nice thing about this system also is, if we determine that, we do need that stop arm, it's set up to do it. That's actually a really cheap addition to add. It's the salt and the crud that they said, it's just, you can do it, but you may not have it the day that you want it also. So, I mean,
Thank you. The next item, the administrative reports, district leadership team update. John?
Sure, I'll start and say a little bit, and Tom and Jason can add to it. So I'd like to first just compliment our district leadership team. That is a group of teachers from the elementary, middle, and high school, teachers and student services staff. And we tackle a bunch of issues, some more larger, impacting more significant issues, and then some smaller things. The topic we covered at our last meeting was curriculum. And we know it's coming up in February. That's the timing of it. And we spoke, and it's an honest group. And we expressed that we needed more time, and so they wanted to say if we could do it the first reading in May and June, but I've been updated to we're going to try to go for April and May. So that's going to be our goal, to bring social studies and the other curriculum that is ready, or will be ready, library and CTE, I think, and May, or April, first reading, and then May, second reading, so we need to get a curriculum meeting or committee scheduled. And then we also talked a little bit about the upcoming in-service for February and looking at some of our review and revise committees, getting those groups together and getting that going. So with some help from CISA, hopefully, from some of the specialists from CISA. So excellent discussions, moving some good stuff forward. So.
Jason, you want to go next?
Another topic that we're working on in there is gifted and talented. Mrs. Woodward's actually going to probably lead I guess what you would call a subcommittee of the DLT. Basically, historically, we have a gifted and talented program that we have some criteria for identification, but we do not really have criteria for continuation or removal. So once you're on, you're always on, type of situation. And I think depending at different times, I think a good example could be a student, say, is a quality reader. And so possibly at the end of like second grade, they are doing phenomenal because they can read phonetically really well, they can sound things out. But then maybe once they hit third grade, comprehension is not as great. So they might have been at one point a gifted reader, but then as they progress through, maybe they're not. So we're going to be looking at just different criteria as far as not only redefining what it takes to be classified as gifted, but what it takes to continue on, and if we need to remove or something at some point, that criteria also. And then just activities and that'll go along with. So kind of reshaping overall our either G&T or TAG, depending which one you think should go first program.
Thank you. Tom?
And the only other piece that we really added on, it was a really fast meeting because Keel wasn't there. No, it was, there was just a few things on the agenda because we had worked through quite a bit. So the other things that we kind of focused on were our next two in-service dates. We talked about how we want to commit the time here coming up on January 24th for teachers to work on end of the semester, end of the quarter type work that they need to do as far as grading, preparing for next semester's classes and things like that. And then as far as the February 27th date goes, again, each building was going to kind of determine what they need, although there's going to be a heavy focus on working on the social studies curriculum for those folks that are in that area, as well as CTE and ILMS pieces there. I think there is a couple of other things that we were looking at for bringing in on the 27th, but most of that day was each building kind of focusing on where their teachers are as far as the curricular pieces go and stuff like that, and what they needed to do to move along.
Thank you. Speech LT sub update, Jana?
So we had a long-term sub for speech therapy just kind of fall out of the sky right into our laps.
Oh, nice.
On December 30th, which was Christmas break for all of you that know that. I got this email that was like, we have somebody that's qualified. It was from a staffing company. I was like, give me any information that you have, because we were all set to go with teletherapy, which is recognized by the DPI as a way to fill speech therapy needs. But what I know about students, and specifically students who have special education needs, they do better with a person in the room with them than with somebody behind technology. And while there would have been a paraprofessional assisting the students in that teletherapy, it still isn't a qualified speech therapist sitting in the room with them working on their goals. So I was contacted by this company. We met Shauna Ellingen that the Thursday that we got back, January 2nd, and she was in our district Monday the 6th. So it went really fast. It was kind of like a tornado, and she's here and she's doing great. I've heard nothing but excellent things from the special education teachers that have been working with her. she fits right in with all of the teams. She has an outgoing personality, so that bodes well for her in a school environment. And she's the only speech therapist that goes to all 3 buildings, so, well, 2 buildings, but 3 schools. And she's really fit in with teams. She attended an IEP meeting, a couple IEP meetings already. She brings excitement, and I know that she's not treating this like she's only gonna be here for 3 months, even though she's all set to go back to the Cayman Islands in the fall, which is where she came from. And we all were like, seems like the wrong time to come to Wisconsin. However, her daughter just had their 4th baby, Matt? Yes. Matt may know her personally. So she has her 4th, her daughter had her 4th baby, so she came home to help her daughter with some stuff. So it made a lot more sense when she said that. We were looking at her resume and everything. It was like, winter, Cayman Islands, let's meet this lady who comes to Wisconsin then. But it all made sense, and we're really excited to have her here. So we are lucky. She's through a staffing company, so it's called AMN Healthcare. So our contract is actually with AMN Healthcare, but she is, so she gets paid through them. But so that's why it wasn't for approval, just for information. Just want to give you a little background about her.
And if need be, she would be available till the end of the school year too.
She'll be available as long as we need her, but she intends to go back to the Cayman Islands in the fall. So I said I must have done something right during this holiday season because she fell right out of the sky into my lap.
Perfect. I guess we're gonna have to keep you if you have that power.
Well, no, it was luck of the draw, I think. We got lucky. And she's established in this community, I should say, as well. So she's living in Lafarge, and she has family within our community, so.
Very nice. That's great news. 8th grade high school planning. Jason, how about you go first on this one?
Yeah, it's already started again for 2020, 2021. So we've, Mrs. Schneider's been out in 8th grade classrooms. We had an 8th grade parent night, our annual 8th grade parent night, which was well attended, filled up the band room. So a lot of it's, we had the elected teachers, went down to the middle school, met with the 8th graders to share their different courses. So yeah, we barely get halfway through the school year and we're already planning for the next one. But that's the way it goes, and we've been working closely with the middle school staff, especially the 8th grade teachers, to just make sure the placements are appropriate for kids and just that they have the most information to be able to share with their families.
John, you have anything to add to that?
Very complete. One thing I would add is Miss Carls follows up and helps with some of the 4-year planning and class requests and all that good stuff too. So this is an exciting time of the school year for 8th graders. And so they all fast forward time and all want to be high schoolers for a while and have all the high school privileges, and it's like, slow down. Couple more months. So it is exciting to watch.
Yeah, we basically jump into 8th grade guidance lessons, and so they're able to work it in and then continue it on.
So they're after doing it for a bunch of years, it's so routine, but they are excited and attentive, and
the scheduling is always so complicated as well. Every grade has every person has different interests, classes change, and
it's exciting to hear students talk about it at lunch and ask questions, and simple, cool questions like, now, why can't I just take this class? What's a prerequisite anyway? Those kind of things. And sometimes an 8th grader views this block schedule as, I can take like these 3 CTE courses and really load up here and do this, and they don't realize all the other classes have to fit in there too. So they realize it all eventually. Josie's probably like, yeah, I remember that. I can get math done in a year and a half and take all these cool classes, But it's fun to watch. So.
The next topic is Trillium Trout Program. John?
Yes, so I think Mr. Zuby's the main person behind it, but Ms. Kostanzik and Mr. Zuby have been working with Trout Unlimited to get, I think it's 55 gallon, where they get the trout. At this point, I think they're just going to be mini trout because we're so late instead of the eggs, I think, but I stand to be corrected. But the aquarium has to be approximately 55 degrees and to raise trout. Trillium, we are always trying to get projects that incorporate the outdoors and as many experiential projects and learning opportunities as possible. Getting students to go out in the community and do things is so difficult. Finding a place that want a 13 and 14-year-old in their system is a struggle sometimes. They want older students that are 16, 17, ready for employment rather than 4 years before that. So it's a challenge. So bringing this kind of project to the classrooms is really neat. So they are very excited, the students are excited, so that will be happening soon.
What's the process too? If the nutrients have to be just right, the survival rate is pretty low. It takes quite a bit of effort to get, and then to get authorized to be able to release the trout is a big deal, and not many people to do that, but Joel did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have a resident expert. He's on his second year.
Yeah. Mr. Anderson has an aquarium too.
Oh, okay.
And he's had 2 very successful years. So.
Great.
One not so successful.
Well, the first year of doing this, I didn't want to say this publicly, but the DNR has a lot of restrictions on release. So we have to demonstrate to them that I think it's bacteria rates and all this other, the health of the fish has to be at a certain status to be introduced to our local streams. So the DNR needs to do some testing before we get permission to release. So.
The next topic, student board report, Josie.
Yes. So for the upcoming change in semesters, seniors are very.
I apologize. I'm
Yes.
going to have you introduce yourself since you're on camera.
So I'm Josie Dobbs. I'm the senior representative at Viroqua High School. And so yes, as I was saying, the seniors are very excited for their final semester coming up, and for a couple students, it is their last couple days. There's been a mix between students having either like a lot of like finals and being overloaded between that, and then also just kind of not having much to do. Student council is preparing for their cabin fever week in February, so we're making reserving dates, and we're getting the Nordic lanes for bowling, the ice skating at the hockey arena, and then we're having some different movies at the movie theater, and the gym and like a resource classroom open for students who want to just stay at the school. And then for student council for our events, we have for fundraising, we have fundraisers in February for Matchematics, which is like this questionnaire that kids fill out, and then they can buy them back later, and they get like matches and stuff. It's so interesting to see. And then also for February, we're going to do selling of carnations for Valentine's Day. For community service, we are going to fundraise stickers that we have made for Australia wildfires that we're going to donate to the Red Cross. We're also going to have a basketball event where we'll sell them at. And then for staff appreciation, we distributed like hot cocoa packets for the teachers this month, and then next month they're going to have like cookies in the teachers lounge. And for school spirit, we had a scavenger hunt last Friday. So they had like snowflakes and different items like around the school, and then when they found them, they got like different size prizes that coordinated with them. And then in NHS, we are starting to plan for our the dance that we have. It's like after one of the basketball games, I think it is, to raise money. So we have that in our fund to give to a family in need in our community.
I remember there was a conversation from December about gifts, secret gifts or something like
Secret
that.
Santa.
Yes, how did that go?
For student council?
Was that student council?
Yes. I don't think we did Secret Santa this year.
We did the cards.
Oh, the cards for the teachers?
Yes, it was something with teachers.
Yes.
It sounded
So
pretty
every day
interesting.
for the week, each of us gets assigned like a teacher or two, and we write like little clues, and they're put in their mailboxes, and they have to figure out which student was writing to them, then they can get a prize. I can't remember if anyone figured out who they had this year.
Oh yeah,
I
did.
You did. Because they shouldn't show
I was the second one in.
Little Culver's chip and student council card and.
That sounded
Yes,
very
and the
good.
student council kids were great because I think it was Wednesday, they all decided to wear their student council t-shirts. And then they all put as their clue that they were wearing their student council t-shirts.
That was clever. That's very clever. The stars on Dars, and then everybody had it. You know that Dr. Seuss book from a long time ago. Oh, very fun.
And Josie's one of our busy students, which is why we were able to get here, because she doesn't have a basketball game tonight, but
No, tomorrow.
she will go home and study for her AP exam after she leaves tonight. So it's definitely a busy time for those of year for those that are very active.
Well, thank you for attending and for your report. We appreciate it. The next item is the district administrator report.
Which is like a half hour, Josie.
So I will say though, if you need to go, you are more than welcome to leave, okay? Not that you're not interested in me, that was not my intention, but.
We'll keep it. That's right. So we all know that, we talked earlier about teacher shortages districts face throughout the state of Wisconsin. And we're very fortunate to have filled every position with highly qualified, fully certified teachers this year. So, in fact, all of our staff are recognized by DPI as highly qualified at this time. So this also includes our latest 2 hires in career and technology, which is a difficult area to fill. Both of those teachers are fully licensed under the state's experience-based licensure requirements and are therefore highly qualified also. So this is great news for our community, as we know so many districts in the state have been struggling to keep highly qualified teachers in every classroom. So just something we want to make sure that the community is aware of and the board is aware of.
As far as WASB or any legislative update, I actually will be in Washington, D.C. Legislating for the technical college system, which there's always some overlaps there with the K-12 system with dual credits, but that'll be on a federal level. I'll be there the beginning of February, and then majority of us are attending these board members, K-12, can't think of what to call it. State education meeting in Milwaukee, and that's next week. A couple of other items, the referendum, the process and time frame is starting to take place to be able to speak to different community organizations and individuals. There's also information on our website about the referendum for anyone interested. If you'd like to ask any questions, please contact Dr. Arnson or Mike, and they are more than willing to answer any questions that you might have. And as well, the elementary school principal, that will be a posted position, as we had stated at the very beginning when we hired Tom as the interim. So we are looking forward to that process, and more information will be coming when that process has been decided upon, but that will happen soon. And Dr. Arnson was also going to speak of the safety report, and so if you want to mention that briefly.
I will try to make it quick, but it's been such a wonderful process. Each year we meet with the emergency services and response teams within the community. So I'd just like to thank, because the key members of that, besides the administrative team here in the district, are Brandon Larson, who's the director of the Vernon County Emergency Management System, of Viroqua Police Department Chief Rick Natefeld and Assistant Chief Todd Simonson, from the Vernon County Sheriff's Department, Sheriffs John Spears and Chief Deputy Nate Campbell, and the Viroqua Fire Department Chief Chad Burrows. So we met on January 3rd, all of us together, and did a tour of potential relocation sites. If we have an incident at the school, a gas leak, a fire, something that may require us to leave the building, We have several neighborhood churches that are good partners for us, and they've had some new clergy there. We've had some new administrators here. We also have a new police chief and some changes there. So we toured Emmanuel Lutheran Church, the Church of Christ, Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, and St. Mary's Catholic Church. And we determined all these sites to be very welcoming and open to us in case of emergency and cooperative with the police and fire departments. So we have a good relationship there should we need to move students off-site in a hurry. We have a welcoming place to go that we should be able to keep them safe and dry and warm until we decide the next steps. We also visit the Duke County Highway Shop and the Vernon Electric Cooperative Building in Westby as potential reunification sites a little bit further from the school if we need to move further away. We've been working with Westby. Jana was good at helping sort of open the door with this conversation with them, in part because Brandon Larson had shared reunification plans with both of us that were very interesting and useful. We decided if Westby and Viroqua could work together, use the same kinds of materials, it would be much easier for the emergency responders to know we were going to be responding the same way, reacting the same way, to work with us. We also then decided it would be easy for us to go and help each other. If there's an emergency, we're all using the same kind of information. We can support them, they can support us, and everybody's excited about that too. So the locations would be, our backup might be Vernon Electric, Westby's backup might be the county shop as far as the reunification site. So we're working on those plans. So we'll be meeting again with that full committee again this next month. What we're planning to do together as a group is to work on a tabletop training exercise for all staff by the end of the year, where we go through and talk about what reunification would look like and how that works, and walk through it with everyone so they're familiar with what the steps would be and how that would work.
We're very fortunate to have that collaboration, I believe, with the Westby School District, our police department, our sheriff's department, our fire department, because safety it's such an important part of what we do. And people don't, I mean, it could be a tornado, it could be a lot of different scenarios, so making sure that everyone is prepared. So thank you for that. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for your reports. Thank you for attending, those of you that are in the audience. Thank you guys for reporting. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No, I went.